Hey guys, Steven here, Fanatic Perspective. Have a special guest, my man Trey Moore, on the show. We're going to be breaking down a crazy day yesterday, and a day yesterday that wasn't very good for myself as a Texas Longhorn fan, as we received the news about Ochaun Mathis heading to Nebraska, and as it was finalized that we did not have a draft pick in the 2022 NFL draft. So my buddy Trey is on here to help me out with just processing all this. Trey is actually a TCU fan, so I'm going to be getting a very, very unique perspective on things. But Trey, it's funny because you're in the business of more of the high school recruiting and analysis. I definitely want to plug you. So welcome to the show, Trey Moore. What's good, brother?
It was good, bro. I appreciate you having me on. I've been following you for a while. Even though I am a TCU fan, you do good things for that, not just for Texas football, but for college football. Period. Giving a lot of perspectives. Also, you in the NFL, you both of us Cowboys fans. So I like it. I appreciate you having me on. I'm with Texas Football Life. A couple of my buddies, my friend Sam Stowers, Jordan Shrugs. We're all different part of the states. I'm in Houston right now. Jordan, he covers the Austin area, and then Sam, he's up there in Dallas. So we're all over the state. We'll go to different games. You will always see us covering everywhere.
Trey is out here covering these kids. So I'm going to post the link to Texas Football Life, the company that they run and everything in terms of coverage, scouting, and just exposure for these high school kids. And as Trey said, he covers Houston. So I'll have all the links in the description below. Trey and I actually have a unique connection. Trey grew up with my cousin,
Yeah.
which is really really funny. We found out, the three of us realized it interconnected on Instagram. So shout out to my cousin Dylan, who you grew up with, and is one of my closest friends and cousins in the world. So it's pretty awesome. Um, Also want to plug our sponsor, BUSR, busr.com/fanatic. We have the second round of the NBA playoffs kicking off today, or tipping off, I should say. Celtics Bucks, going to be a hell of a series. Mavs and Suns, just some phenomenal, phenomenal matchups in the NBA. Take advantage on busr.com/fanatic. Hit that promo code in there. You can even get some free casino chips. Take advantage. The other cool thing about BUSR, player prop bets, something that Tran and I have been hitting on big time recently. Giannis, points, rebounds, assists, combos, Luca triple double combos, all sorts of things that you can bet on. So not just over unders, not just win losses or spreads, but also the players themselves. So it gives you more of that fantasy basketball type feel. So take advantage, busr.com/fanatic. So Trey, I wanted to have you on here. I've been just wanting to talk ball with you because, when we talk behind the scenes and discuss a lot of things, I feel like, it just makes sense. But this conversation regarding Ochaun Mathis, who was, I'm not going to say any BS, right? That was a premier target for Texas. That was somebody who this entire offseason we've been targeting to add to our defense to give us that boost on the edge, much, much needed. And somebody that, quite frankly, I penciled in. And so I eat some crow there. And I want you to kind of go through just kind of the timeline and some of the background with Mr. Mathis, because I'm going to hit on some areas where people are starting to shift their opinions all of a sudden. But I think a lot of people, Trey, starting out, want to know, why was this such a big show of a recruitment? Why did it come down to April 30th and the whole aspect of Texas versus Nebraska? Can you kind of start with maybe when he came out of Maynard?
So when he's a 3-star out of Manor. He is very low. He goes to TCU camp. Gary Patterson offers him on the spot. His recruitment picked up very, very late when he was at Manor with coach at the time. He had two coaches, Coach Sad Jackson, and then now I forgot the coach name now. but it was a transition for him. So he's a very low 3-star. He starts getting the offers kind of late. Like the Oklahoma came very late. He comes to us. 2018 signs, puts up as a freshman solid, some solid numbers, about 2 sacks. But in the COVID year, that's when he really blows up. He's our top defensive end. He's all Big 12, godly player, very good. Then what happened with us last year. The departure of Gary Patterson, let him go, and it was just a big thing. So you had Sonny Dykes comes in with a Joe Gillespie. He was also part of the Texas football high school coach before he left to go to Tulsa. Put up some good numbers at Tulsa, but the defense changed from know the 4-2-5 to now to a 3-4. So with him looking at that, he's looking at out of a draft standpoint. I want to come out of 5 tech. I want to put my hand in the dirt. But you have 3 defensive down linemen. So now he sees, January 12th, he hits the portal. After that, Gary Patterson gets hired at Texas. During that time, everybody thinks he's a Texas lean because you have Gary Patterson there on staff. So you look at it now. In that time frame, he's the number 1 player in the portal. He didn't have that same attention that he had when he was in high school. So now he's treating it as, hey, I'm the number 1 portal player. My final 5 schools came down to Penn State, Nebraska, Texas, SC, and Penn State. You see him. He takes visits to. He took one visit to Penn State. He took a visit to Nebraska. But what was key that he took 2 unofficial visits to Texas, and he had his official visit the spring game.
Right.
So that's what was catching people. I was like, oh, he's a Texas lean. He's a Texas lean. He's a Texas lean. He's visiting Texas so much. He took 2 unofficials. He's coming to Texas. And I even penciled him at Texas. But I think what threw him off was maybe schemes.
Even more than NIL. Because that seems to be the story right now is, did Texas get outbid for Ochaun Mathis? So talk to me about scheme.
About the scheme. So the scheme comes from a 4-2-5. You think that Texas will implement a 4-2-5 under PK system. But when he's down there, he's looking at the spring game, it's more of a 3 down lineman set. And they maybe have told him, saying, hey, Ochaun, we're going to use it for passing situations where we might put in a fourth lineman. We might do that, or we might just stick in our base defense. So why would you think about it, why would I leave a situation where I'm playing a 3-4, then go to a situation where I'm going to be in a 3-4, which I didn't want to do? Now, everybody lives in Nebraska, 4-8. Look at it. The record tells what they are. But if you look at how much they lost by, I think it was an average of 10 points. They just lost by average of 10 points. They only got blown out the Northwestern game. I think it was like 42-9 or something like that. But they played number 9 Michigan, lost to them by 4 points or something like that. They played Oklahoma. You seen that at the beginning of the year. Lost to them by, I think, 8. It's a close game. That's because their defense kept them in it. The defense only gave up a mid-range. They didn't hit the high 20s. They hit the middle.
Yeah, on the season, their defense, if we just go by, let's say, points allowed, Nebraska defense at 4-8, I think they only allowed 22 points a game, which was 35th or 36th in the country.
They finished 47th in the country.
And 47th in the country in total defense. So Texas is, we're coming off of in the hundreds.
Yeah, Texas finished exactly at 100. They finished exactly at 100. They were a top 100 defense in the country versus Nebraska's 47. So Nebraska's they're saying the same pitch that Texas is giving, but they have the scheme advantage over Texas. Hey, we think that you can win us these games that we lost by 8 points. The problem with Nebraska is, we all know, was this quarterback play. It was the other side of the ball.
Which is funny because Casey Thompson's now their quarterback, or he's supposedly going to take over at quarterback. I mean, we'll see. The Purdy kid is over there too, but theoretically, Casey Thompson is going to step in at quarterback for Nebraska. and emphasis. And I think that's another thing that plugged people the NIL way. Casey Thompson does an interview. I think it was busting with the boys,
It was.
and he said, the NIL money is different here at Nebraska, and I know it ticked a lot of people off, and I was almost like, bro, it's time to move on. I don't hate you or anything like that. I'm not like some of the other fans, but at the same token, it seemed like it was a shot at Texas, a subliminal shot at least. And now you're looking at the NIL thing and the package that was alleged put together for Mathis, which was, I think, almost maybe $600,000 or $700,000. But I think you're right, though, in terms of what you're hitting on in terms of the scheme. I think everything matters, Trey, because when you look at the scheme, the scheme is important because the end goal is to put tape together to get to the NFL.
And that's what he's looking at. He's not looking at, I want to go win me a Big 12 championship. I want to go to the playoffs. Right now, he's thinking of, hey, I got to play for a contract. I got to play for a day one, day two type of guy to get drafted, because that's where you get your money at. Day one and day twos and day threes, hey, even this 4 day, was a 4 day draft, those first 2 days determine three. Yeah, sorry, 3. To be honest, the first 2 days determine a lot of money that's going to be given to you. A lot. So he's looking at that like, hey, I got to get my technique. I got to get my technique better. I got to put my hand in the dirt more. I got to become a better run stopper. I'm exceptional on the pass, because people look at Ochaun's stats and say, well, he only had 2 sacks last year. But did you look at his hurries? That determines a lot of things, especially if you have a ball hawking secondary. It's all about timing with receivers, and we know that, and getting the ball to them. So that's what he can do. He can do that. He gets hurries. He could better his game up on being a run stopper, because now what happened when he didn't have Kiari Coleman last year? Injuries plagued him. His freshman season, Kiari Coleman had a big freshman season.
Yeah, 13 and a half tackles for loss, and was a freshman All-American. Coleman was.
So now when we talk about scheme, they were scheming to Ochaun. We're either gonna run away from him, or we're going to just run to him, because we know he's kind of he's a little light, but he's okay, not a good run. He's an okay run stopper. But on a pass situation, I can go over there. I'm gonna chip him more, because now I don't have to worry about Kiari Coleman. So, and that's what he's looking. He's looking at. I'm getting, like saying Stevie said, I'm going to get this tape together, so I can make sure my draft projection is higher. Because dots and commas, 2 different things. Get that dot is a meal, comma, you gonna make 6 figures, but you have to play your butt off.
So Trey, the point you just hit on is something that I've withheld. I showed a lot of restraint on Twitter yesterday, because there was a lot of takes flying around, and it's an emotional time. Us as Texas fans, we're desperate to get back. We're 5-7 last year. After we beat you guys in Fort Worth, we went on a 6-game losing streak, and fortunately, we were able to win against Kansas State to at least not just lose out the whole season. And we get Quinn Ewers. We've had so much success in the transfer portal this year. Ajayi Hall, Isaiah Nayor, all these guys coming in. And so it's like, all right, we're about to get Mathis on defense and have that edge. And, you have some people now that are like, well, it's not a big loss because he only had 2 sacks last year, and, and blah, blah, blah. And maybe he wasn't that great of a player. Maybe the COVID year was an anomaly. Here's the thing. Don't talk to me about stuff like that if you haven't checked out the tape and you don't understand the scheme. My biggest frustration, and this goes across college football, really, because there's better analytics for the NFL, in my opinion, that general fans have access to. If you're not on Pro Football Focus, where you have access to advanced metrics, or you have access to how the coaches chart their data, because these coaches have different metrics as well. But one thing, if you're using sacks as a baseline metric and that's it, that is the most surface level way to judge really any type of edge or defensive line production, right? Because the sack is, yes, a desired outcome, but that doesn't tell the whole story of the entire play. For example, we all saw Joseph Osai in 2020, that same COVID year, finish as a consensus All-American, and he had 5.5 sacks, and he was a primary, edge pass rusher. He did have some drop responsibilities in Chris Ash's scheme, but for the most part, he was attacking the quarterback. He only had 5.5 sacks. But if I look at his pressures, if I look at his win rate, right? How many times is he defeating blocks? How many times is he being doubled,
Oh
right?
yeah.
If he's being doubled, now that's isolating other guys, making everybody else's job exponentially easier, right? His tackles for loss. How's he playing against the run? How's his outside contain when they run to that side? All of those factors matter. It's not just about did he get a sack or not. I've seen guys, and we've seen this even with the Dallas Cowboys, people talk about Randy Gregory's impact. Well, Randy Gregory only had 6.5 sacks. If that's your basis, you didn't watch Randy Gregory. You didn't understand what he was being asked to do, right? When you have somebody with elite bend like that and somebody that can dip inside, a lot of the things that Ochaun Mathis does they're actually kind of similar in a lot of ways, where they'll go and attack a guard and take out a guard, and next thing you know, my blitzing linebacker has a free lane to the quarterback.
And he did a good job for that with Garrett Wallow. Garrett Wallow, it was like vice versa. Garrett Wallow will feel it free him up. He uses that bend, he gets to the quarterback. Or if he had to set the edge, he sets the edge. Well, guess what happened? Here comes Garrett coming up the middle. And Garrett played safety in high school, and they converted him down to a linebacker because he can run. So he's very good at that.
It's a skill within itself that it's similar to tight end, and this is a conversation we had with Sean Lewis, who's one of the Texas analysts on the staff on Twitter and Spaces, in terms of mirroring players and understanding what the responsibility is and what that means for the team. What I mean by that is your corners are going to mirror what your receivers look like for the most part. That's why some of these corners are getting bigger. That's why some of these corners got to run. They all got to run, but in terms of fluidity and being able to play the ball, they got to look like how the receivers look like what you hunt. Linebackers looking like running backs now. Well, your edge guys, especially these more hybrid type guys, got to look like what some of these tight ends look like too.
And it's
right.
You made a good point. What's the guy? Oh, he just got drafted by Carolina. He ran like a 4.3.
Bone was it Kamari or it was the guy from Virginia Tech.
Yeah, and they're getting, like you're saying, they're bringing it's a hybrid type that they have to be able to run. Because like you're saying, everything is changed. You got to have the bigger corners because they have the bigger corners because you can deal with if you have a speedy receiver, hey, you can get there. But even with a bigger corner, let's say if I have a Isaiah Nayor versus a Sauce Gardner, well, guess what? That eliminates
they match up.
They match up because the size difference is going to match up. So you Steve, you correct about that. The game is changing, so you have to see the changes. And that's a perfect example. What's his name? Wasn't that Ray Thornton?
Ray Thornton last year was mm-hmm.
If you
played
see
buck for us, I believe,
against the Arkansas game when they kept on running GH counter, and then guess what happened? Guess who ran GH counter? Oklahoma to seal it. When they were running GH counter, Ray Thornton wouldn't hit that. He wouldn't meet the pulling guard or the pulling tight end. He would try to avoid it and go around. You can't do that. That's why Smith and shit, they was just hitting it right up the middle because he's taking a wider angle. And that's what Ochaun does. He can set an edge, and that's what you don't need. And you made that's a good point. It's the little things.
It's the little things, and that's why it's a big loss. So my point in saying this, Texas fans, is to understand that this is a blow we have to recover from. And that there are things that the coaches have been working on to the point Trey made earlier about Ochaun's visit to the spring game, that they have to install. They've already been working on a plan B, if you will, with the defense in terms of alignment and maybe moving over to a 3-3-5 or throwing Moro Ojimo over at a 4-eye to have a bigger front to stop the run and have some of that more outside contain. They're working on plan B. I'm not saying that they're not. And we know we have, young freshmen that we're excited to see develop. But like it took time with Jatavian Sanders last year at tight end, there's a lot of nuance to edge as well. Mirror, right? So to ask a Justice Finkley or a Jermaine Tapp to come in and be rock stars day one, if I have an Ochaun Mathis, in my opinion, if we had gotten Ochaun Mathis, day one, he's the best player on my defense, in my opinion.
And he is. He
would have been the best player on our defense day one.
And you give time for Finkley to develop, and also he's that teacher. Also, he's saying, "Hey, I played in the 4-2-5 scheme. This is what GP wants. This is what PK wants. Let me teach you. And this is how I can teach you you have more tools in your tool belt that you can use. That this will help. What helps me. Also, iron sharpens iron. It's going to get Sorrells ready. It's going to get Finkley ready. You don't have to move Alfred Collins to the outside. You can keep him inside where that's what I think Collins' problem is right now, because he gets moved up and down the line so much. He's so like, hey, I'm not confused, but what do you just want me to do? It's a lot. It's a lot. So now I can have this. I have this piece where I don't have to move certain linemen around. He's going to be a valuable asset in my locker room. He's going to teach the guys different things. And it just like Nebraska, he's going to help me win those closer games. Because now the average, I think Texas was giving up 220 per, like 220 in a rushing.
Yeah, and on the ground. And a lot of that again was your counters, your outside, runs. So that's something that we're looking at, Pete Kukowski, and I put this graph, I've been, kind of living with this graphic for the 2021 defense in terms of, benchmarks on where we need to improve. If you look at these metrics, again, for Nebraska, they're better. And yeah, they play in the Big Ten, different scheme and everything. The reason why I'm harping on this too is this is a big deal. This isn't something I've heard a lot of people say in the last 24 hours, hey, it's just time to move on. Well, listen, it's only been 24 hours. Okay. I'm not saying we got to harp on this for the next 2-3 weeks, but if we don't sit down and analyze the need, why we're in the need, what happened, why the player didn't choose us, then what did we learn? I'm using this as a learning experience. I'm not just saying we're just going to outright take an L and put our head down and be pissed off. That's not my energy right now. My energy is to discuss, hopefully educate some folks, so you're not just over here regurgitating sack numbers as if that's the only metric of performance for that position, and you really understand how that position impacts everyone else. As a matter of fact, the number one overall pick in the NFL draft, because we're going to move over to the NFL, and I know you wanted to make a point about, I'm going to let you actually first make your point about Ajayi Hall, because I know you had a point about him and the difference here.
So let's take it like with Ajayi Hall situation. Ajayi Hall hits the portal. He has his thing with Alabama. He hits the portal. He takes one visit to Texas. That weekend, he commits. He commits that weekend. Now with Ochaun, everybody's like, Ochaun, he's a Texas lean. He's a Texas lean. Well, guess what? He drug this out for almost 2 months. So you kind of had a feeling like, okay, why are you dragging this out for 2 months? I understand how you didn't get that much attention in high school. I would do the same thing. I'm the number one transfer portal player. I'm getting I'm getting NILs thrown at me. This is the side. I'm getting NILs thrown at me. I'm getting all this attention. I'm going to enjoy the recruiting process. But if you're so much of a Texas lean and you see yourself there, just commit.
Facts.
Just commit. Ajayi Hall did it. It's another guy, Coach O. That's on Twitter. He tells kids, you have all these offers, and you know what school you're going to. What's taking you so long? What was taking you so long? If you know you want to commit there, what's taking you so long? We understand, enjoy the process, enjoy it. But if you know, hey, this is my fit and this is where I want to go, go. Hall took 24 hours to commit.
And he was in. It's a great point.
He was bought in. Ochaun, so that's when I kind of say you look at it like, hey, something else is going on. It shouldn't have taken Texas fans, like even with the inside, like why is it taking so long towards the end? And the portal closes today at midnight.
today.
Today, May
So
1st.
Texas and so I want to make this 2 points, and then we can tie off here, right? So your point about the portal closing, that's why it's another reason why it's a big deal. There's no plan B in terms of getting another player.
You
Your
have
group now, it's Baron Sorrell, Ovia Gofu, and then you have Finkley, backing up those guys, Jamon Tap, Prince Dorba, DJ Harris, guys like that, right? And so this is not to say that they're not capable or they're low level guys or anything like that. But there's a lot of youth, they're unproven, and that is a big ask because now as an offense, I don't have to allocate any resources to change up. What we need to see as Texas fans or hope for is that honestly, a young guy like a Justice Finkley who was here early is ahead of schedule by fall. Like we have to pray or hope that somebody takes that leap. I love how Baron Sorrell's body looks. I liked how he played the limited snaps he played last year. But one thing I need people to understand, because we have the same conversation with Cowboys fans about Dorrance Armstrong, how you look in 10 to 15 snaps when you getting off is different from when you're playing 50, 60 snaps, okay? When you're being asked to be that dude. Now, we are going to have to take this thing on by committee. There's no doubt about that. And the coaches, again, whether they throw Ojimo out there at 4-eye and they go to more of a 3-3-5 type element and say, you know what, we're just going to be committed to stopping the run and we'll try to get exotic with pressures. That could be a way out of this. But if you want to stick with your 2-4-5 element and have those hybrid guys out there, then you got to pray that somebody's ahead of schedule or can take on the workload. Because I know Ochaun Mathis could do that. And whether he's going to get the sacks or not, I know the byproduct and the outcome is that everybody else gets to eat. That was the point of this. Okay, so now where we pivot to and how do we get out of this, right? And in terms of understanding that, because again, the edge position, in my opinion, and it's all subjective. I know some of you have texted me or sent me DMs and said, Steve, I don't feel as strongly about the player as you did, and blah blah blah. If you're consistent in that, respect to you, right? What I don't respect are the fans that were all on board with the Ochaun train and, oh, we need him. And then the guy doesn't come. And now it's like, oh, well, he's not that good anyway. Oh, he only had 2 sacks. When it's like you're even changing your evaluation, right? And so the other thing, too, is I've heard people say, well, I don't want people that don't want to be at Texas. Let me make this point as well, Trey. There's such thing in sports with any good team. They're called mercenaries. Ochaun's a mercenary. Those are the people that are the finishing touch, right? Those are the people that come on board that take you over the top. Every NBA, like around the All-Star break, you'll have buyouts, right? And you'll have guys that are looking to go and help a team make a little bit of bread and hopefully get them over the top. Those people are mercenaries.
Because they know
not every single person on your program or your team is just going to be full-blown, I'm Texas, and this is my dream school, and blah, blah, blah. You guys have to get that romantic idea out of your head, or else you're never going to win. You need some mercenaries to get you there.
Look what Bam was doing. Now, they had a kid that just at Utah, tight end, played in the spring game. The next day hit the portal. Guess what happened? He's down there at Alabama, and he's already crystal balls at Alabama. So, like you saying, the mercenaries, they're there because they want to win, because they know, yes, NIL, yes, I'm getting paid in college. That's not the ultimate goal. The ultimate goal for these kids is getting the NFL, generational wealth. I don't have to worry about that. NIL is just a temporary solution to it, but it's going to be end up to a bigger problem. And that's the thing. So the portal ends today for kids to submit their names. It ends today. So the thing is with that, why it's so, like you said about today, these mercenaries that are out there, hey, you have to figure out they're not going to be at the beginning of summer camp. You don't have nobody's going to come in for a summer camp. But you just said with Finkley and Osmore, you're going to have to hope Finkley is ahead of schedule. And I mean, the kid looks the part, and he
Physically looks good.
looks good. His film is good. He's good. But there's a name out there. His name is Isaiah Lamb. He played at FCS school. Isaiah Lamb played at FAMU. He was the FCS sack leader right now. The only thing with him, he's 6'4", 215. Is his weight with him, but he has bend. Texas could go reach out to him, try to get him in summer two, get him caught up, and there you go. That's another mercenary you can add. You have now the game has changed. The portal game is changed for everybody. I think it was like 200 at one point. It was like over 200 kids in the portal that's been there for 2 years.
Yep.
Somebody wants to play.
Yep.
And you have to get your evaluation right. With Texas, they're going to this is young, they're youthful, is young. You want to get out them early, let them learn, and they'll be good.
And we have to, and I probably have to do a part 2 of my expectation videos that we did for the 2022 defense, because I know I had Mathis factored in there. But if we're going with the youth movement, and for those of you that are saying, Steve, those of you guys on Twitter that are upset that we didn't get the players, stop crying. Let's move on. I want Texas players. Well, reset your expectation accordingly. That there's going to be, growing pains and drop off. Like that's living in reality. Okay. Unless somebody does something that is totally unexpected. That's not me being negative. That's not me saying I'm not excited about the season. I think some of us have to get into the mentality of enjoying the journey and enjoying the process. I want to enjoy this journey of watching them grow. Quinn Ewers is going to throw picks.
Yeah.
Some of these young guys are going to make some mistakes. Jatavian Sanders is going to make some mistakes. There's a lot of young. Kelvin Banks, if he gets in there. All these guys, they're young. But enjoy the process. And if that process is 7-5 or 8-4, whatever it is, enjoy it, because I guarantee you down the road, if they continue the path that they're going, whether they get a Mathis or not, 2023, 2024, 2025, Texas will reap the benefits. But so many people are fixated on, well, Michigan State just turned it around, or Baylor just turning it around.
There's a process with them. Like those two teams are process, and we can even use this. Was Vince Young, Trevor Lawrence when he first took the field? Everybody wants to be. They want a Trevor Lawrence. You're not gonna have that. It's kind of like the Floyd Mayweather effect in boxing. Everybody wants to be undefeated, so they pick and choose who they want to fight because they want to have the glory. They want to be Floyd Mayweather. I want to have that my record be, because they think that is great. That is greatness. That's not always greatness. You may be getting beat like a Tyson Fury, rising up from basically from the dead, getting punched by Deontay Wilder, and look at how Tyson Fury is now. Lineal, he looks the best, and you have to think about that even with programs. If you turn around from 5-7 to 7-5, that's improvement. And you see, like, man, wait till Quinn learns how to anticipate passes a little better. Or looks like he's not going to lose his arm to bail himself out. Learn to play for the next down. It's going to look good. Finkley not getting off field so fast. He's sitting the edge. He's using different moves. It's going to look good. Even in Byron Murphy. That's also Byron Murphy. Hey, Byron, don't get up the field so quick. And he learns how to play his role. It's going to look good. Like you said, enjoy the process. It's going to be a process. Not everybody can be a Clemson coming out of the gate doing a transition year and have Trevor Lawrence is sitting on your bench and he's just generational. I know they have we look at the perfect ratings. We look at that. Don't worry about that. Even with Vince Young wasn't even,
they wanted to bench Vince, bro. That first year, I think it was the Missouri game, they wanted to sit Vince down. Or move him to receiver, excuse me.
For
Chance Mock was there. Yeah. So it wasn't until after the OU loss his sophomore year. I mean, he had a great freshman year, but his sophomore year, after the OU loss, he never lost again. And now he's an all-time legend. But that Trey, great point. That's a journey. Okay. Now, if we're ahead of schedule next year, if we go 10-2 or something like that, yeah, I'm taking it. I'm not saying that's not possible. But what I'm saying is if you're playing this many young guys and you don't get your prize veteran mercenary that was going to buy you some time, and now we got to go and start playing people that their bodies may not be there yet, their development may not be there yet. Well, we got to just have some patience and enjoy it because we've lacked patience at Texas for so long, and I also think that's out of disrespect to the programs that we do face. I mean, I hear people saying, "Well, we should beat Baylor next year. We should beat Oklahoma State next year. Who do they got? Who do they got?" Meanwhile, we didn't have anybody get drafted, and that's not on Sark's staff and them. That's not on them. But we got to understand, it's been about 12 years now since we were really, really good, and we haven't won the Big 12. We've been to one Big 12 championship game appearance. So the audacity after Baylor had two guys go in the second round and the workouts and NFL scouts are going to Waco before they go to Austin because of how these guys are working out. That's just the reality of the situation right now. I know Baylor's replacing guys. I know Oklahoma State's replacing guys, but to just completely disregard them and say, well, we got Quinn, we got these people, we're just going to steamroll everybody now. That's not like that to me. I'm not saying we got to be scared of them, but respect the opposition, respect Dave Aranda, respect Mike Gundy and what these guys have been doing in the conference.
And that's the things about, because we're a lot of Texas fans, but we play down to our opponents. Playing down to your opponents because you don't respect them. You got to think about you don't respect them. It's true. It's like I even go with us when we played Baylor this year. That was the first game. I think that was the second game. That's our first home. Yeah, the second game. It was our first home game without Gary Patterson on the sideline. Got Jerry Keel in there. He stepped up. It was so much emotion. Chandler Morris comes in there, goes nuts because it's the aspects. I'm looking like I'm Baylor looking at, they ain't got their codes. They going through turmoil. We better come here and put 50 on. We're gonna go home. And you can't say that. Like with Quinn, Quinn hasn't thrown past since 2019. If you want to be technical, he hasn't taken a hit since 2019. He hasn't thrown a pass since 2019. The kid is still great. I will respect. He's still great, and I seen him in Texas high school. He's good. He lives up to the hype. But you have to the growing pains, go through that. This year, it's going with our conference. It's going to be a cannibalistic conference. A lot of teams are going to eat a lot of teams. A Big 12, the Big 12 champ won't go to a playoff. Go to New Year's Six Bowl, but it won't be a playoff because all the teams now are their level. What's good about Texas is y'all staff. Y'all had a staff there for a whole year. It's like with Baylor, they had their staff. Oklahoma State, they're replacing their DC. Us, we're replacing a whole brand new staff. West Virginia, they have turmoil too. I think they just replaced their OC with Graham Harrell. But they had a lot of transfers. I know, made the butt of the jokes. Yeah, Texas beat Kansas. Okay, cool. But they have a lot of transfers too. It's a lot of with people now. It's a lot of movement going on in the conference, and that's why I see us like, hey, Texas. I'll be honest, they may lose. The top team may lose 4 games, maybe this 3. It's not like how years past where we have Oklahoma's just the best, and then everybody else going to kind of weed themselves out. Forgot Oklahoma, new staff.
Right.
It's
Texas,
going to be,
all of everybody. And that's the thing too. Like you said, I mean, you could end up in a situation where, second, third place team, top team is 3-4 losses. So, but if Texas is in that boat, which we, hope to be, I'm not trying to be negative or anything like that. I'm saying enjoy the process, enjoy the journey. If we get there, great. Head of schedule, great. But 2023 and beyond is when I'm like, okay, I'm ratcheting up expectations. I'm giving them time. They've got some guys in here, the trench guys, the guys that don't get the gaudy numbers, anything like that. That was the point I was going to make about the NFL draft that people have to understand. Trayvon Walker went number 1 overall. He had like 6 sacks last year. But if you listen to Kirby Smart and those guys at Georgia talk about his impact on the game and all the things he does that made everybody around him be able to play free, including Jordan Davis, including Devontae Wyatt, all those guys, and they still got killers left there. People like Nolan Smith and Carter and all these guys, right? And so, like, building that up, that takes time, right? You know, we can get there, but we've got to enjoy the journey, enjoy the process. Look, it's okay to be upset about the Mathis thing. You don't have to go on somebody's Twitter account and say, move on. But we also don't need to be crying about this for weeks. As long as we're learning from it. There's a difference between just being upset and being pessimistic, actually saying what happened, let's diagnose it. Let's not just be lazy and say Nebraska outbid us with John Deere money. Like that's a lazy outlook. As we just did, as we diagnosed it, scheme, all of these things factor into a decision of this magnitude. We learn from it.
And that's like you saying, Lone Walker. If you look how many, let's look at Georgia's defense, how stacked it was, and then you look at compared to the draft, loaded. And with our conference compared to the draft, it was
okay. We had 25 people get picked, and Georgia had 15.
Had 15. They had half of that, basically. So so if I'm looking at recruit, I'm looking at all that, I'm looking like, hey, I might want to go. It's the development part. I might just go over there because they developed and prepared. And like you say, you looking for like enjoy the process. Looking for 2023 when you the year before you go into the SEC. Y'all did an exceptional job this year. Y'all loaded up on the trenches. So you know what? We'll probably have one of the best lineman halls here on both sides. It's good. You see it's trending to the right direction. It's going to the right direction. I don't think some fans see like, hey, we're going into the right direction. I just want to know about now. I want to win the Big 12 now.
People want to skip steps, Trey.
You can't. Yeah, you can't. It's like I say, Meek said, it's levels to this. You can't skip that.
You can't.
You have to think about it small. Even let's say Texas goes 7-5. I'm recruit. Texas goes 7-5 next year. But I look around. Draft comes around. They have about 3 or 4 people in the draft. They have 3 or 4 people that go the second day, first or second day.
And the quarterback has, he's thrown for a lot of yards. The receivers got number. Like, you can see the building blocks. It's not just.
And that's what it is. Like when Kirby Smart came in there at Georgia, that's what a lot of kids seen. They seen, hold on, they done got a couple people that's going these couple of rounds. You had no, he didn't come in there with Aaron Murray. He came in there with his quarterback he plays for the backup for the Bills now.
Jake Fromm.
Fromm even got drafted. So kids looking at that like, dang, Jake Fromm even got drafted. I know I'm better than him coming out of high school. National just get a little development. We talk about George Pickens. George Pickens, he riddled with injuries. But guess what? He still got drafted.
It's funny. We look at Colt McCoy's last 2 years and legendary, right? Leads the team to a national championship game appearance the senior year. They were undefeated through that point. Only one loss in the 2008 season. 2006 was a dope year before he got hurt. 2007 was rough. But we saw the signs. People forget that 2007 Texas year. It was rough in terms of, he was throwing interceptions. It seemed like people were figuring him out, but then he started finding himself. And the offense, Jamal Charles got going and really went crazy the back end of that year. But I mean, that when I look back at it, I'm like, oh, that was part of the journey to get to how dope stuff was in 2008 and 2009. We needed that 2007 season. So that's all I'm saying. And if we're ahead of schedule, we're ahead of schedule. So I know I'm repeating myself now, but I'm trying to drive this point home of the journey. Trey, plug your stuff. Where can people find you, man?
You can find me Twitter, Trey Moore. Trey TRE_more TFL. You find us there. You can find us at Texas Football Live, TXFBFILE at on Instagram. Yeah, like I said, go follow my man. I gotta find Jordan stuff. Jordan Scruggs at Texas Football Life. Sam Stowers at Texas Football Life. But it's enjoy the process, y'all. Just enjoy. That's all you got to do. Enjoy the
Thank you
process.
for coming on, man. And I know, before the season starts, I'm gonna have you on again, just so we can get a little, as you have a little bit better view of what Sonny Dykes has planned for TCU and just more conference outlook. I mean, we're both football heads. You're monitoring recruiting left and right, especially there in the Houston area, and just very thankful for your insights here with Mathis and just breaking all this down, and the significance of it and what we can learn from this as football fans. Guys, thank you to BSR, bsr.com/fanatic. Got playoff basketball going on. Had a lot of boxing. Shakur Stevenson last night looking explosive. All of these things you can take advantage on, get your bets in. The last few weekends, Tran hit on the Tyson Fury knockout under 9 rounds. We hit on that, and also hit on Earl Spence Jr., his knockout over Ugas at Cowboy Stadium. So a lot of cool things going on there at BSR, bsr.com/fanatic. Take advantage, whatever you want. We support great customer service. For my Texas fans out there, horns always up. Thank you guys for an awesome episode. Appreciate it.
I appreciate you having me on, man. Have a good one.
Amen. Hook 'em.